Well, it's winter time. Certainly tell you that now. Ho ho ho. Double thermaled up here. Anyway, it's another episode of that Lincoln Green 4-door left-hand drive car. Enjoy it. And before we get down and dirty, check you're subscribed. If you're not, why not? If you fancy contacting me, then it's Churchhouse Classics, and that's all one word, at gmail.com. And if you fancy supporting the channel, or just plain buying me a pint, then there's a PayPal me link scrolling at the bottom of this video. Enjoy the video. So once I got pump in place, I can bleed the brakes through, and we can see if this has actually worked or not. Come back over to the noisy bench again, because my fan is on. And you can see I've got my oil-filled radiator as well, because this thing's quite useful for when my fingers just cannot feel anything anymore. I can just put them on here, and it just warm me up. Thermal gloves have been very good as well. These are the oily thermal gloves. I've got a cleaner pair of thermal gloves under here. Oh yes, this came from Wigs. I found this in my shed at home. I have got a bigger unit, which I might bring in. Yes, and the bench is untidy because I've had a major push on Range Rover and on Midget, which is why the bench is absolutely covered in stuff at the moment. Right, so on the inside of the car, I have refitted all the door cards, new plungers, new fixings, not new, but used old stock grey surrounds for the locks and for the pulls. I put a blanking cover on the bottom, bear in mind Vogue SE, and we haven't got the crossover wiring on the back of the door card, so rather than putting 4 speakers in and just wiring them up in series, I thought the speaker technology has improved so much. Let's simplify the situation just by putting a grill over the bottom one. Now, this grill is not in as good a shape. I'm going to have to do some repairs to this. I did just take the metal surround off. It's held in by, it's folded over. Gave it a rattle can blasting with some satin black, and then I had to extend the wiring for the speaker. So that's just crimped there and extended so I can connect it up to some speakers. Right, so let me go and find my torch, and then we'll talk about the wiring in the dash, because you can see it's all apart. I can see my torch. It's right there. Torch. Right, in here. As you can see, I've fixed that handle as well. Good tip, that, eh? Right, as you can see, the centre console and everything is out, and I'm actually going to take the centre console out under the gear sticks as well. And the reason it's all out is because this is incredibly flimsy, this piece of plastic, and none of it was fixed in properly. So when I took it out, none of the fixings that you can see on the extremities down here, none of those were actually bolted to the frame at the front of the car. So that came out. It should be fixed onto the screws. In fact, you can't even bloody see them. It's probably why it wasn't fixed on this. I'm going to have to sort that out. And then the vent pipes, which are these two chappies here, that one and that one. That one's torn. I've probably got another one of those somewhere that needs to go in. You can see there's been some water leakage in here at some point, but I'm not worried about that. But this console just is not sitting down where it wants to, and it's because of all this crap here. So I'm just going to undo the 2 bolts here and here and just take this console back out again, because I need to be able to get the new radio in. Now, new radio going in is a pain in the arse on these. The reason being is the full depth radio needs every bit of the access down here in order to fit. So you do not want any wiring at all between the back of the radio and the bottom of that hole. The radio will not fit. Now, on this particular style of centre console, we've got the separate radio mount point. Here's one I prepared earlier. Torch just go there for a second. So the idea with that is that once This is in the right place. That sits over the top of it, and the radio goes into it. Okay? The other reason I wanted to take the centre console out is because the centre console is not right for this type of fuse box. So the loom and the loom is probably original to the body shell. The centre console's not. Sniff. The reason I don't think the centre console is original to the car. Let's go and have a look at L95, because that's a KA suffix, and I know that this is a GA suffix, but it's got a 1992 body on it. We're going to work to what we've got. A leak. Condensation dripping down from the roof, I expect. Right, if we go into L95, you will see in L95 you've got quite a different structure to the way that the centre console is built. So the piece that I just showed you just now, that piece there, is actually part of the centre console on the KA and onwards cars. So 93, 92, 92, 93, I think it was all a single piece. And here you can see this radio hasn't quite gone down far enough. The solution would be, of course, to do away with the CD player and get yourself a narrow form or slimline radio that doesn't need the full depth of the hole, the available hole behind it. And of course, then we've got. So if I take, let me do the other thing, which is to take off my fuse ball cover. Let's put that up there. Now here you can see there's little plastic corners on here that allow the fuse ball to fix in place. We haven't got that on the other item. Yeah, I know. There'll be a video about that, folks, don't you worry. So, when it comes to the radio on this, I need to fix the centre console in, the fascia, the radio and heater surround. That needs to be fixed in properly. Find a way of fixing the fuse board onto it so it's not going to rattle around and fall off. Find a way that we can get this centre console to, excuse me, actually sit down properly. And I suspect this has just been lobbed in because the chassis number on this car would indicate that it probably was automatic originally, and now it's manual. The body, that was. Chassis number was automatic, and now it's manual. I lose track of things. Because these things are like Meccano sets. You could chop and change parts around. Oh, it doesn't make life any easier, does it? So, yes, I've got some challenges on that and getting the interior sorted out. You can see I've cleaned the back seat off. It's now all in the boot. Oh, the other thing I found, I can't remember if I told you or not, the seal on these things. So this footwell was full of water. This is the original seal to this side. And what happens is the seal fails here. So you can see where I can get my hand behind the seal, and I can pull it off. In my hand. So that then, what happens is the water comes down here, thinks, right, I can get between there and there, and now I'm going to go down the inside of the seal and into the car. That's how water comes in. So if you've got wet footwells and you haven't got rust, replace the door seals. And then you're going to say to me, yes, but you can't get these original seals in the colour anymore. You can. Look at Disco 1. The door seal for Disco 1, front door seals are exactly the same. The reason I know that is because, as you well know, I'm going to go outside now because it's freezing out here, I tell you. I took the door seals off that. I put them on that and they fit beautifully. In fact, what I did was I found on eBay, this is not a disco video, don't worry, on eBay I found a chap that was selling door seals. And these were used, or these are used old stock, but they're in much better condition and they fit like a bloody glove, and my car is now dry inside because the old seals had failed. So I tried these seals on that car. I did initially get myself confused, and this is kind of the logic of working with a left-hand drive car. So I took the driver's side off, I went in there, and of course I went to the driver's side. Dickhead. Anyway, this is how cold it is out here. Look. The swimming pool's frozen. There's me. Oh, actually, that's unfreezing itself. Right, let's go back in here again. And the other thing I did find, of course, and this is not uncommon, when I take the centre section out that all of the heater controls go through, not only is it bastard well broken, because someone's been in there, ham-fisted Gibbon's been in there. I don't understand how you do that. Anyway, it's happened. But all of the bulbs are missing as well. So when the lights come on, you want all of this lit up. None of it was lit up. So that was the other reason I wanted to take the centre console out. But the main reason for getting the centre console out, of course, was to get everything so it goes back in properly. Earth is that there? I'll tell you what that is. That's a microphone. So someone at some point has had a microphone in here. More extra wiring and so forth. More extra wiring and so forth. Yeah. Now, one of the things that I'm going to do, let's go onto radio now. So let me just move the ABS pumps over here to the side of the bench. When it comes to radio, this is what I mean about having the full depth radio. If I show you the radio that came out, this is a nice Pioneer Bluetooth, used old stock, but it came with the adapter wiring, and I'll show you my issue I've got with that in a second. The radio that was in it is this chappy, unbranded, it's 25,000. And that's a Comft. You see here, Comft. Probably not a lot wrong with it, but it's not the most beautiful looking thing. But when I put them on top of each other, you could see you've got quite a bit of excess there. Pretty much 2 knuckles on my thumb. And it's this extra bit on the back here that really does cause chaos when you're trying to get these things fitted into the car. So then what you have, let's find tripod. There's tripod right there. Oh, I'll have to warm my hands up again in a minute. Bastard. I can get on there. There we are. There we go. Right, so, heater, out of the way, heater for heater. So then, if that is going into the car, and it needs the full depth, that goes into there, and it will end up sitting quite tightly on the back of this. I'm inclined to have this go this way, okay, and then have this connector beside it with the loom going across the back, if you get my drift. Because if you have that going along behind it, first and foremost, these wires are going to chaff on this heatsink on the back here, and secondly, that fucking great block there is going to be even fatter still. So by routing the wiring this way from the connector, we get an opportunity to be able to do something a bit more creative with the wiring like that, if you get my drift. And that's kind of where I'm going to go with it, because otherwise there just will not be enough room on the back here to accommodate. That's the bit with the radio. Obviously with the other narrower form radio, you can pretty much do what you bloody like with it. You can probably keep your packed lunch in there behind the radio too. So this has got CD player in it as well. I guess if you go for a unit that hasn't got CD player, then you're not limited to the full depth, because of course the disc has to go in and occupy quite a significant amount of room. Now this has come with the security cage, this has come with the bezel and so forth. We'll be able to get this fitted in. I'm not anticipating too many problems with it apart from wiring. Now the other thing, typically Range Rovers come with these ISO connectors, and someone very helpfully has hacked them off on the customer's car. So I picked these pair up. They're about a £5 off Amazon. Just pick up a pair of those, I'll splice those back into the loom, and then that allows me a plug and play. So if someone then comes along and wants to change this head unit, rather than having to stick with the Pioneer setup with the whatever way plug that is, they can revert back to using the standard ISO connectors that would have been in here originally. I think that's about it. Oh, so I need to tonight I'm just going to do a map. Won't take me very long. You've got the power goes off this top connector. The brown connector is all four corners as far as the speakers are concerned. So I've got all of the speaker wires. Let's go back into the car by pulling the centre console out. These wires that are twisted, these chappies, that's the four speaker wires. I don't know if they're still connected at the four corners. They certainly are at the front doors. Whether they are at the back or not, I couldn't tell you. All of this lot is spare bits for things like, I guess, cruise control and so forth, because we're in a Vogue SE, and none of this will be required. Seat heaters as well, so two of these will be seat heaters. That will be a seat heater. That will probably also be a seat heater. So we've got lots of excess stuff in it that we just don't need. Now, because it's bound into the loom, because we've got a Vogue SE loom, there's not a lot I can really do about that. I just have to find the best way I possibly can to tuck them out of the way. But if you can imagine that you've got then seat heater wiring, you've got radio wiring, you've got CD auto changer wiring, and you've got no space whatsoever to deal with any of this under here. And then on top of all of that, you've got this connector, which is it that one? That one there, that connector there is what connects onto this, which goes to the radio fascia. Getting all of these in, and the bulbs in the right place, is a faff. You learn new swear words, folks. You will learn new swear words. Now, apart from that, everything else up here looks quite stock. Oh, God, I was. So, it is worthwhile. I mean, you can see down here, look at all this shit. All these connectors on here. So, the idea is to chop this off and splice in that ISO connector. I've still got the radio aerial here. Now that radio aerial, if it's correct, there should be, because on the glass it's there. That's the aerial. On an earlier car, a 1990 car, the aerial was typically shared with the heated rear window. On these cars, though, they put it on this side piece here. So up here in the roof, on the inside of the roof, there is an aerial amplifier. And I need to find out if that exists still otherwise. Because obviously you don't want to have a whacking great big whip aerial on the outside of the car, do you? And there isn't one. Because it's on the rear glass. Right there. In fact, I had a 1992 car. It's the one before this one. And I don't seem to recall that had those marks on the side window. Because I didn't know what they were when I bought the 1993 L95. And if we go around to the back, past the small black midget in my workshop. Hello, mate. It's got them scrubby, but they're there. Right. Oh my goodness. It is almost time for me to pack up and go home. My knuckles are going blue again. Right. Until I get the radio wired in, I'm not going to know which speakers are working. But the colour coding for the speakers itself is actually in the factory manual. I suspect what probably happened is someone, because the wiring in this door has certainly been chopped around and all that shit was in there, I suspect that the wiring had been chopped because the crossover had failed in the Vogue SE setup and someone couldn't work it out, so they decided rather than just bypass the crossover, they thought, do you know what, we're just going to run new wires right the way through the car. It happens, folks. So that's factory there with it's not got factory connectors on the end of it, but that's a factory style of wiring that I'd expect to see inside the door. On that side, it being cut very short. Right, I think that's enough of me gabbling on now. There's certainly a fair amount there for me to edit. But that's where we are. with a Lincoln Green car. Now, a lot of people have asked me, by the way, on this, is it Lincoln Green? It doesn't look right. Is it not Warwick Green? No, Warwick Green is much more yellow, as far as I'm concerned. I am a bit colourblind between my blues and my greens. I did get the paint mixed up. I had a fair amount of it mixed up, actually. There we are. And I told them Lincoln Green, but I also gave them the fuel filler flap. And they said it didn't actually come back as anything, but when they compared it on the latch cards, it was closer to Lincoln Green than anything else Land Rover. So it could just be it's whatever the person who had the car threw at it. But by scanning it, I have got a can of paint there. Look at that. Ready made for use. It's a 2-pack, this is. So you need to mix that with a hardener and thinner. So it's difficult to tell whether it's Lincoln Green or not. There's a lot of people say, oh, I like the colour. I like the colour. There's a lot of people telling me, no, it's not Lincoln Green, it's Warwick Green. It's not Warwick Green. And it's certainly not anything that I've seen on a car of this age. Now, it's difficult to be able to compare it because I'm going to go outside now. I'm going to go outside, back into the cold. And I'm going to go past Dale's car. There'll be videos on this coming up. You might have already seen them. That's Lincoln Green, but it's very, very, very faded. If I go inside, this is not Lincoln Green on the outside, by the way. If I go inside here and go, where can I go to? Door pillar. That's Lincoln Green. There, this is Lincoln Green. Yeah? This is Lincoln Green. I don't know if you can even see that. Probably not. I'll go for the inside. Probably didn't help at all. This has also got a few holes in it. This car's got some challenges. That's Lincoln Green. And it is quite a pale green. But behave yourself. The bonnet certainly was Lincoln Green. That wing was Bahama Gold, though. Right. There's not much running water out here. Everything's frozen. I've done that joke already. Right. Once more, back over to the bench and warming up. I made up a sheet. Drop me an email if you want it, but you can find all this shit online. But effectively, it gives me the pin-out for the 2 ISO connectors, typically what colours will go into that, and then I've taken a match for what those colours actually are in the Range Rover Loom. Now, what I did find is that there's an anomaly between the 1993 and the 1992 wiring diagrams. Whoever would have thought Land Rover would fuck it up, or whoever wrote the manuals would fuck it up. So here we've got 1992 and here we've got 1993. So I'll put these two side by side. And effectively what we've got is left front speaker, black and brown, black and white. Left front speaker, black and pink, black and red. Right front speaker, black and pink and black and red. And right front speaker, black and brown, black and white. So they've reversed the wiring for the 2 front speakers between 1992 and 1993. Now, it's entirely possible that they did reverse the wiring in the loom, but I'm more inclined to think that the 92 diagram is correct and the 93 diagram is incorrect. So that then took me on to a second problem. Does it work? Well, yes, it does, but I'm not going to turn it on because it's going to play music and then I'll demonetise the video. I turned it on. I've not literally just got it dangling in here with the cables plugged into the back of it. And my USB stick in there, which is the only thing I could find with any music on it in my workshop, and I found that in L95. So what I've effectively done is establish that one speaker out of the entire car works, and it's on the right hand front door. So then I went through the stash of speakers the customer had. That one I think might be past it. I've kept the cover just in case. But I think that speaker might not be any good anymore, so that's going to go in the scrap. I was getting no output out of the back at all, except for the back left speaker. Now, this is the back left speaker, and yeah, that's fucked. This is the back right speaker. Fucking hell. There's another two scrap. Now, the front speaker, which I managed to find one in my stash here, which is kind of a standard Range Rover speaker. Front right speaker I could not get to work. So what I then did was I broke the connector that goes into the door. On the loom side of it, I plug straight into the speaker and it works. So there's a problem with the loom that goes into the door. So I'm just going to pull a new piece of cable through and splice that in. Nothing's ever easy, is it? Anyway, it works. Let's disconnect the battery before I forget. So it works. Now I know that all four corners are working. I can talk to the customer, get a decent set of speakers all round. I've got the blanking piece for the bottom of the door. Replace the two door speakers in the front. Replace the two speakers at the back. Give it some decent sounds. Yeah, I need to pull a new piece of wire through over there. Or take the fucking door card off again. But I don't think it's actually going to offer me a huge amount of room. I think what I'll do is I'll go in through the hole at the bottom of the door. And I should be able to reach up and get that sorted out. I'm going to go and do that now. I'm not going to video it because it's just a load of swearing that ends up ranking my videos down because I swear in them. Anyway. So yes, these two speakers were actually screwed in, but badly. They were JBL model 420, 4x2-way, 40-watt speakers. That was clearly missing its tweeter off the front, and that one is very clearly broken. And I think what had happened was, the reason it was so dim is that was just touching on the magnet, so it wasn't actually, it was earthing itself out. There was no insulation between one of the terminals and the speaker itself. Again, we'll keep the covers. We've got Pioneer covers for JBL speakers. So I'll keep all these nice and safe. Speakers are all scrap. They can all go in the bin. But at least we know the damn thing works now. It snowed yesterday. Yeah, we had quite a lot of snow. And then today, it's been about 14 degrees. Look at the condensation everywhere. All the snow's gone now. Oh, there might be a bit out here still. No, it's all gone. All the snow has gone, but the amount of condensation is just ludicrous. Dale, your car is dry on the inside. As is Disco. Disco fever. Right. Where are we? We're Sunday. We are coming up for 4:30, so I'm going to finish up, I think. I'm going to put this door, get this wire through and put this door back together. Oh my word, this has been driving me up the wall today. Right, as you can see, all of the plastics now are out. I've been trying to, because the fuse box is this style. This is not the fuse box out of it. This is one out of a loom that I scrapped. But the fuse box relies on lugs on the centre console panel in order to accommodate it. This doesn't have those lugs. So what I've done is I've made up a couple of U-shaped brackets that I put on the outside of the centre console, put the screws through to hold the fuse board to the back of the centre console. Now the second problem I've got with the centre console is this is incredibly flimsy. This is the lightest plastic known to mankind. There's no structure in it whatsoever, and in fact you can see down here it had in fact broken. So I have bonded some metal mesh with a view to try and give it some strength back. The other challenge I had was that the aircon, inboard bracket on the aircon, which mounts up against the heater, so not the heater, but it mounts up against the centre console bracket, was mounted incorrectly. So I've had to take that off and put that back on properly, otherwise the dash was never going to line up. Yeah, it's been a day of frustration, really, just trying to get things so that they're going to fit back on and look right. There's nothing worse than the dash all going back in, and it looks like a bag of shite. I'm still not convinced that this radio is going to fit into the space that's available, but we're heading in the right direction for it. You remember those pesky body mountings on the forward edge of the bulkhead, where there was no rubber on the top side and there was half a rubber on the underside? Well, I can't get the body lifted, even though I've undone the sill mounts. I can't get the body lifted. There's something very weird going on. So I've popped back in the half rubbers, and I put a rubber on the top, and I put the correct fixings in there. I put the correct washers on top of the mountings on the front wings here. And you can't see any of that, unfortunately, because I didn't bring my torch. I could see it. So that's a bit of a ball's ache, which is irritating. Now, I need to sort out a number of things on this car still, and I've been talking to the customer about really getting this job finished. We're going to stay with the 3.9 engine, so the only things I really need to do with this engine are sort out the vacuum advance, which is not working, and the base idle speed, which was wildly out because the ignition timing was so far out. And then I thought, let's just check the air filter while we're here. I'll tell you one thing, and that is right down there. I can't push that down any further. That wasn't filtering much. And what they've done, well, I think what's happened is someone's used a Dugga gun to undo the nut on it. Have you ever seen anything like it? Yeah. Okay, right, so what I'm going to do is I've actually just done it anyway. I've taken that sleeve off there, and now if I stand, again, the air filter's not exactly the cleanest in the world. God knows I haven't got that dirty if it wasn't even filtering. I think there is another air filter in the boot. By taking that pedestal off, I can now pull the air filter in. Obviously don't do these things up horrifically tight, but what you do want to do is that end needs to seat against the inside edge, and this end needs to seat against that edge, and not be like that, because it's just no good to man nor beast. Oh dear, oh dear. I'm not going to bother straightening that out. I can't see any easy way of doing that, apart from putting a Dugga gun back on it. Honestly, I just... Have you ever seen anything like it? Right, I'm going to go and have a look, see if I've got another air filter. Put that in there. I need to replace the brackets on the front edge of the inner wing for the air filter, because now we're going to go with this engine. It makes sense to get these bits back on. Now, I think that goes onto there. There's the other bolt hole there. So 2 bolt holes there and there. I can get that bolted back up. I can bolt this bracket back up, which doesn't look like I've painted, but then the pump's going to go back up here as well. So yes, pump we've already discussed. There's the earth cable I was telling you about. So that earth cable needs to go on to the back of the modulator. The problem I've got with this is this car originally, or this body shell originally, was listed as an automatic according to the VIN number, and there's no way can I get to the nut there. So I'm going to make up another lead which will go through to this nut over here, I think. Yes. Bonnet release is the other thing I need to do. So I've put the metal tube in, that's gone in. Bonnet release cable's gone through the inside of it, and it's down here somewhere. So that needs to go back in. Bonnet release cable can go in. I'm going to talk to the customer about this, because I think realistically that needs to be welded, because it's not attached anymore. and it's this edge here. I take the fixing right 8. Could have been prepared for this, Richard. We could have been prepared. The carpet on the underside of the bonnet is an interesting one, but never mind. So what it's done is it's fractured right there. So what I need to do is take the clip off and put a few blobs of weld up there. Probably may need to even put a plate across there and then weld it. Try and do it as tightly as I can because this bonnet is really nice. But if you remember from an earlier video, all these fixings were loose. What was the other thing I found just now that I was quite amused by? Air filter. Oh yeah, so I've been rebuilding the centre console. So I couldn't get any glass fibre matting. So what I've done is I've used a metal mesh, this stuff that you're supposed to put behind P38 filler. Well, I put that there, and then I've used Narrowdyke. And that seems to be, so far, working quite nicely. It takes about 14 hours for it to go off. But I'm rather hoping, that's fingers all sticky now, rather hoping that once that's gone off, that'll be strong enough then for me to put this back in. Now, it doesn't need an enormous amount of strength, but it does need to be rigid for now. So perhaps we'll need to put some rubber around it.